you.
Okay, so we are now recording. I wasn't expecting Alison and Baby to be available today, but delighted they were able to join us. Oh, Ashton has just come back. Hi, Ashton. They're on audio. So I'm going to start the session. This is a LinkedIn clinic, and I've known Alison for many years, so delighted to host this webinar for them this month as they have their hands rather full. And I've got some slides, but this was kind of promoted as a clinic in terms of, ask me anything. In the next hour and a half, we'll keep going until you've run out of questions. I'm happy to do that. I've got some slides that you will have a copy afterwards, as well as the recording, based on what are the recent changes to LinkedIn. The world of social media changes so much. Usually LinkedIn, out of all of the platforms, doesn't change quite as often, particularly in comparison to Meta, and who knows quite which direction Twitter's going in at the moment. We think Elon Musk is going to go through with the sale, but not quite sure. But LinkedIn tend to kind of almost batch their updates, and when they do come through, lots of stuff comes through at once. And actually this is very good timing because there's been a recent batch of updates. So I've done them as slides, and you may use these slides internally to refer to as well. I kind of write my slides so that they're a bit of an aid memoir as well as me presenting them. And actually, when I put these slides together, they will lead us off into some different directions of tips and ideas as well. So I'm not just going to read out 10 slides and then go, there's the updates. I will add some bits and pieces around as well. I will keep an eye on the chat. If there's anything burning, please just shout out or put your hand up or use the chat or whatever you want to do. This is a nice small group, so we can just have conversations around these changes. But the good thing about when I present is that I always clear my desktop before a presentation. So it's the time that it always looks nice and neat before I share it. So LinkedIn, as you may be aware, is now owned by Microsoft, has been since 2016. So their reporting of stats and quarterly updates all come through Microsoft rather than being specific LinkedIn updates, which is slightly different to the other platforms that are kind of wholly owned. Their latest quarterly update that came out from Microsoft about February this year, they always report increases, don't they? But LinkedIn sessions had grown by 22% over their previous quarter, and they're reporting record engagement. So great, Adrian, that you said the word engagement. We can dive off into that area. They've also reported that revenue is up by 36%, which is driven by an increase in demand for ads and a resurgence in the job market. So actually, Philippa, it would be great to get your inputs when we talk about perhaps the job and the recruitment side of this. Because of course, LinkedIn is a slightly different business model to Meta and Twitter, which is all ads driven. That it is ad driven primarily by job ads, some business ads, and actually they've made some changes to those. I won't talk about ads too much today unless you want to, but they are also, very much a business model driven by premium accounts, which I will talk about. Part of that £1 billion revenue has come from their Sales Navigator product, which is very CRM level of LinkedIn, probably £800 to £1,000 a year now for a kind of a whole Sales Navigator CRM level product. What I also wanted to share with you today was LinkedIn events. I don't know if you're running any events, or if you're running them on behalf of clients, or you get involved in watching webinars and other events on LinkedIn, but there's been some changes around that area as well. And one of the quotes that came out in the last quarterly report was around the reasons for this. And we've heard this term, we are experiencing a great reshuffle across the labour market as more people in more places than ever rethink how, where and why they work. And in this new economy, LinkedIn has become mission critical to connect creators with their communities, job seekers with employers, learners with skills, and sellers with buyers. So Job seeking is one area of LinkedIn. It's probably the perception of LinkedIn and you know, and what it's used for and why people use it. I hosted my own poll on LinkedIn yesterday to say, when did you last update your LinkedIn profile? And as I'm expecting, most people update their LinkedIn profile as they start to look for a new job or as they've landed a new job and need to do some updates. But there's a really key word in this quote here, and that's creators. And not just LinkedIn, but the other social media platforms as well are quite heavily focused on creators at the moment. They're kind of giving them their own terminology. They're giving them their own support as well in terms of resources. And one thing I want to talk to you today about is a creator account, which is something that LinkedIn have and has additional features to a regular account. And it is free as well. So something to be aware of. So that's the kind of background. The updates that I wanted to share with you that are literally kind of last quarter updates. Creator mode was introduced about 12 months ago, but it's the area that LinkedIn seemed to be investing in and adding new features to. There's been some minor updates to what you can do on your own personal profiles. I'll just talk you through those. There has been some updates to company pages as well. As I said, I want to run through with you LinkedIn events and some changes that LinkedIn have talked about in terms of the algorithm and keeping your feed relevant and productive, which I think is what's really important about this platform as well. And just to add at the bottom, they literally shared this at the end of last week, the beginning of this week. There is now a new reaction that you can use on LinkedIn, which is funny. Some people have kind of said, you know, this makes it more Facebook, it makes it more sociable. We're now allowed to have fun in our business world. I don't know if anyone's used it yet, but you now have the option to say that someone's post is funny. So if we start off with creator mode, has anyone heard of creator mode? Anyone using creator mode? Okay, I'll start at the beginning. But let me talk about LinkedIn account types because it is an account type. You have free accounts on LinkedIn, you have paid for accounts on LinkedIn. I believe that you can pretty much do enough, more than enough with a free account. You don't need to pay for a LinkedIn account. But some benefits of paying for an account would be access to the LinkedIn Learning Library of courses. That's the part of LinkedIn that I work for. I have courses in their library. With a premium account, you will have some more search criteria if you want to kind of do quite detailed levels of searching. You may get more search results on a paid for account as well. But a tip here is that there is a limit to how much you can search on a free account, but that limit isn't, I couldn't tell you that it's 500 searches a month. It's not defined. It's more defined by how quickly you are searching LinkedIn. So if you are searching LinkedIn so fast that LinkedIn thinks you're a bot, it will say you have reached your search limit this month. If you kind of just search like a human being, maybe have a cup of coffee and do what you need to do and do it in a more measured way, I don't believe you should hit that search limit. It always resets at the beginning of the following month. They are good features, but I would say I think LinkedIn Learning is obviously great, but the additional search criteria, the additional data criteria probably aren't enough of a reason to upgrade. Probably also not enough of a reason to upgrade to get what they call in-mail credits, which is a way of messaging through LinkedIn. Because again, I think there's kind of workarounds, there's ways of messaging people without having to kind of pay £40 plus a month to get 10 messages. One of the biggest reasons I believe I would upgrade is that on a paid for account, you would be able to see everyone that's viewing your LinkedIn profile, subject to their privacy settings. So if you are active on LinkedIn and you are getting profile views, bearing in mind I do this, all day, most days, I'm getting about 500 to 750 profile views on my LinkedIn every 90 days. So I want to know who they are. So for me, paying that premium level account so I can see who's viewing my profile, being able to send them messages that way is worth, the cost of a networking breakfast. There is then higher levels of accounts in terms of Sales Navigator, which, as I said, is kind of quite CRM. You will also get more data insights on a paid for account. But I would almost say to you, don't worry about going for a paid for account almost until you hit the walls of what you can't do on a free one. What's interesting about the free one is that you now this is about your personal profile. You can now switch your personal profile to what's called a creator account. And I put lots of words on the slides that you can refer back to it afterwards. But if you wanted to switch to a creator account, you would do this in your own settings. So when you're looking at your own LinkedIn profile, I've used screenshots of mine, you will see it just under the header section. You can see that I've switched mine on. Yours may be switched off at the moment and you can switch it on. It's simply a toggle. Now, why might you want to do this? Well, there's a few reasons. If you look at my LinkedIn profile here, it's got a few features on here that won't be on a regular account. That under my headline at the top, can you see that it says talks about and some hashtags? That is something that you can add when you have a creator account. With a creator account as well, I can now also add a website link at the top. So you can see where it says luanwise.co.uk. That is because I have a creator account. There is also some options when on your account, you can kind of move some things around. You can kind of have some featured pinned content higher up your profile when it's a creator account. So if you wanted to switch it on, you do it in that setting. The biggest change on a creator account is that the default would become follow rather than connect. So Philippa and I met a few months ago. We connected on LinkedIn. It was reciprocal. We both kind of agreed to connect, and we can both see everything each other does. What either of us could do would be to actually just follow, which is one way. So you don't need to accept a following to have people, watching your content. I actually changed my default to follow about 2 years ago, partly because I'm a LinkedIn Learning course instructor, and what they do at the end of a LinkedIn Learning course is to say, now go and connect with your instructor on LinkedIn. And it was like, I was getting loads and loads of connection requests, and I didn't want that many connections to manage and see in my feed. So I changed my default to follow. I still get connection requests, but it means that just with one click, people can follow me and then see all of my content in their feed. So actually you can see the number on here around, I've now got over 8,000 followers, but I'm probably on about 2,000 connections. So I'm seeing there's a two-way relationship with about 2,000 people who I want to see in my newsfeed every day. But actually I've got over 8,000 people that are seeing my stuff. So it's a one-way opportunity. You can still connect, but just think about, do you just want to make it really easy for people to follow your content? It's quite a nice option to have. So the connect button becomes a default follow. And what also happens if you're in creator mode, that if someone sends you a connection request, they will automatically let them follow you. So you don't need to worry about accepting that connection request. They will start seeing your content in their newsfeed as soon as they hit that connect button. It's up to you then if you want to kind of reciprocate and see what they're doing and have conversations with them. In that top part of the profile, you can display the topics that you talk about, so it makes it easier for people to kind of know what to expect from you. As I said, you can kind of feature and pin more of your content higher up your profile so that people can see it immediately. They come and have a look. If you don't have creator mode, it's still there, it's just lower down. But you also, with creator mode, get access to some other tools. You get audio events. It's something that's just rolling out. I don't actually have that one yet, but this is where, if you've heard of Clubhouse or Twitter Spaces, you can create a room and just have audio only conversations. You don't have to be on camera. You can just kind of set up a room. We could all go into an audio event afterwards and have a chat. That is an option. With a creator account, you can also have LinkedIn Live videos and LinkedIn newsletters. There is other criteria to meet if you want LinkedIn Live. You have to have a minimum number of followers, you have to have done some pre-recorded content already, your profile needs to be complete, but you can only have those tools if you have a creator account. Does anyone have any questions about a creator account, what that might mean, whether it's something, Adrian, is it kind of something you go, yeah, I'm going to switch to that now, sounds good?
Sorry, turn the sound back on. Will that benefit us if we're managing a business account? Basically, I mean, everything we're going to ask is going to be related to a business account more than our personal account. Okay,
this is about personal accounts. The creator account is on a personal account. Let me share you my thoughts on business pages. We will come on to it. Work is done on LinkedIn through personal accounts. People do business with people. I remember Philippa more than I may remember the company name. And if I was looking for recruitment in the future, it's probably it will be Philippa's name I remember over the business. LinkedIn does have company pages. I've got a slide on it later. You have a company page. Whatever size business you are, you should set up a company page. You should claim that on there. People do search by companies. You fill in your about section and everything else. A personal profile and a company page become connected through the experience section of a profile. When you're writing your profile, you put in experience, you connect yourself to the company page. And then when anyone's looking at a company page, they can see the employees come in there. So you've got these two entities. The challenge is, and when I present this, if I was training a law firm or anything else like that, and Philippa, your organization, I could almost guarantee that yourself and probably a handful of colleagues between you will have more followers and connections than will be following the company page. So the opportunity of content reach and sharing, the power lies in individuals sharing it over a company page. When it's a larger organization, I do recommend that a company page is used, but more as a content hub to make life easier for its employees. So if I was your marketing lead, Philippa, in your organization, I would be managing the company page, putting content on there, and then I would be hitting notify employees. I would be sending messages around going, dear all, I've posted something this morning, please share it to your networks, because you will have more people, so greater reach. But there is also lots of stats, LinkedIn's own stats around employee advocacy of, I think one of them is 24 times more likely to engage with an individual versus a brand, 8 times more trusted individual. I can share the link to these stats afterwards. Just the trust and the sharing and the response comes from individuals. There is obviously a challenge there. If I was the marketing lead, I'd be going, oh, Philippa, how did this do? And have you done something? And things like that. So I would be using a company page as a content hub. The challenge with company pages as well, and one of the updates recently is that there's going to be more insights and more data, but company page stats are skewed by its employees, because by nature of being an employee and putting it in your experience section, you start following the company page. So Philippa, I think, is there 100 plus in your organization?
Yes.
For example. So if I was looking at your company page stats, I would have 100 plus individuals who are in recruitment in London, senior level, and that's going to completely skew my data and my results. And also because I need those 100 to be sharing the content. So any stats around content sharing and comments, etc., are very heavily focused on the employees, and you can't split that out. So I have a real challenge around how useful a company page is when it becomes so skewed. LinkedIn also with company pages kind of dips in and out of giving you information about who's following it. Sometimes they allow it, sometimes they don't. Many years ago, you could see who was following your competitor pages. Then it was only your own page, and then you couldn't see anything at all. In the times when it was completely open and you could even look through competitor pages as well, I did some work for some organizations where I took their client lists, I took their prospect lists, I took their list of people that had visited their trade show stand over 3 days. And at that time, I couldn't find any of those in their followers of the company pages. It was either employees, it was ex-employees, it was students, it was journalists, it was marketers, industry analysts. The clients and the prospects at that time, I may, if I was to do it again now, may differ slightly, but I don't believe fundamentally it would. The power is in your individuals. And that's what makes a company page actually quite challenging. If this is your focus as an agency, what you need to be doing is saying, this is our content plan, this is what's happening, but you need an employee advocacy program to get them sharing it. And that's where it works. Mm. Is that how it's working for you, Philippa, at Green Park?
Actually, I'm thinking about that while you're speaking, and no, I'm not sure it's working quite as well as that. I absolutely agree that collectively we have more connections and followers. And actually, I'm really interested in that whole connections versus followers thing, which we'll come on to later, will we?
Oh, we can talk about it now, because that is the big benefit of the creator mode, is having the following. I'll share with you that, I think we can just look at it as connection is two-way, following is one way. So I'll share with you that and this is your own style, who do you connect with, who do you not connect with? And again, this may, Adrian and Saffron, this may be actually the way that you then speak to your employees about how they engage with it. I will now connect with as many people that want to connect with me. I've got my privacy settings closed down. They can't have a route through who's, my connections. I closed that down. We covered that on the previous session if you want to go back and have a look. So I'm happy to connect with as many people that want to connect with me. I'm happy for people to follow because I want them to be seeing my content. I want them to be seeing what I'm working on, my events I'm talking at. The more eyeballs on it, the better. What I'm very heavily focused on is what information I see and what I want to gather and what I want to work on. So in my news feed, I actually will unfollow people. So I can manage what I want to use LinkedIn for in terms of what I want to see and who I want to see by connecting with them. And some people do post content, some people don't, but I go through my newsfeed regularly, and it's almost like skipping the adverts, that I will click the three dots in the top right hand corner, and I will unfollow. So I'm always kind of streamlining my feed to go, do you know what, Philip, it was lovely to meet you and work with you, but do you know what, I'm not recruiting, so I don't need to see what jobs, if you were just posting jobs every week, I don't need to see that. I'm going to filter you out and skip the TV adverts. But do you know what, I really want you to see what I'm doing so that you can buy from me or recommend me. Yeah. So I think having those two options of connect and follow actually gives you more control, because before it was just connect and you had to kind of reciprocate and see everything that people were doing. People will not know if you unfollow them, and they will not know if you disconnect with them either. So Adrian and Saf, if you kind of go down the employee advocacy route, it's something that's really important to explain to your colleagues of going, this is how it works. We need you to kind of build your audience and share what goes on the company page, because this is how we're going to get the reach and how things are most effective. So I think this kind of connect versus follow, having that as an option, it's a bit like Twitter, isn't it? We don't have to reciprocate when someone follows us on Twitter or Instagram, whereas that is, LinkedIn used to be very much when I first started on LinkedIn, I would only connect with people if I'd actually met them or spoken to them, which makes your world quite small, and that's fine for some people, but actually we're trying to scale and things now.
So do you manage your connections?
Yes. Yeah.
So putting them into categories and things like that?
I don't in that way, because you would need to have a Sales Navigator account to be able to tag them and categorize them. But I'm going to do a live demo as well, so I'm kind of making notes. I'll show you how I go into my network and just kind of filter and search in there if I need to.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, you can't kind of tag. You used to be able to, but you can't.
Yes,
longer.
but it's such a massive job when you've let your connections get wildly out of hand.
Yeah, I think it all depends on how you want to use it, but I just like this opportunity of going, you know, people with one click can see my stuff now, and I don't need to manage it quite as much as I used to. Mim, what do you think of this kind of creator follow versus connect mode?
Yeah, no, I think it sounds good. What was I going to say? Yeah, I suppose it's for Only a Pavement Away, they've got a really active, there's been a lot of content and I've taken that over. So I suppose it's engage all the employees to make sure they're posting and sharing, which they are, and I'm using the notify employees. I found that it disappeared, but it's come back now, so I don't know. Little bit, I just checked then because that was one of my questions. It's come back magically, so but yeah, I think that's good. And I've got a new starter, she's not on LinkedIn, so I suppose it's just sort of making sure from new starters they're set up, and that's part of, it's not really up to them, but that's part of the role as but
there's a feature change coming up which actually makes the whole sharing from employees easier now than it was. The thing about LinkedIn, yes, they take features out and they put things in, and the changes I may talk about today you may not see yet because they roll them out over time as well. Ashton, I'm not sure if you're there. If you have got any questions, then please just put your mic or camera on or jump in the chat.
I'm here. Sorry, I'm working from home today, so a weird setup. We're typically in the office, but I'm listening. I was taking notes when you were talking
Okay.
about our company page. We're a small company here in the United States. Still kind of figuring out our LinkedIn strategy. So that's kind of why I'm just listening, kind of taking it all in.
Okay, great. So let me just go back to the slides and show you a few more bits. On a personal profile, there has been a couple of opportunities to make a couple of new features, really, just to make you aware of. In the experience section, now, if you were to add an experience, so when you're in edit mode, if you were to click on add, there is now a new option here. It used to be just about adding a new position, but you now can add career break. This has partly come about because of COVID, and the way the world has changed, but also I think because LinkedIn are now recognizing that people do take career breaks. They may go traveling, they may take time out to have a family, and before you either kind of had to have a gap of dates on your profile or kind of add something in as a weird role and perhaps explain it. So this new option to add career break is now on there, and it's up to people to use it. Philippa, I'm interested in terms of recruitment. Have you seen people adding this, or is this perhaps something that you think people should be adding a bit more?
No, I haven't actually, but I will be looking out for it, because I agree with you. People have had to do all sorts of weird and wonderful things to make it. And also a lot of people, even though they're having a career break, just let their previous employment just run on and on and on. Yeah.
And change the, don't close the dates or something, do they?
Yeah.
So I think that's a nice addition. And the similar, I think when you're adding your experience now, you can now have the option to say whether you're employed full-time, part-time, contract, freelance as well, because actually some people have more than one role running concurrently as well. And so it's a lot more flexible, I think, that experience section now of how you set it up. They have also, and it's to highlight, I think, the way the world is changing, and recognition as well, is that in the skills section, they have now added dyslexic thinking. This was actually kind of pioneered by Richard Branson, apparently highlighting this. So that is now in the skills section, which leads me to want to talk about the skills section and my thoughts on this. And this may have been in the previous session as well. This does come down to, it is about your personal profile again, but thinking about the power of the personal profile in sharing content as well, is that I believe the skills section on a LinkedIn profile should really be, it's your list of keywords. It's the list of keywords that are going to help your profile get found. So even though Adrian and Saf, you're focusing on company pages, if you're going down the employee advocacy route, you want to focus with people about their skills as well, to make sure that they are listing the skills that are right for them now. And I always talk about a LinkedIn profile being forward facing, whereas perhaps a CV is a historical statement. So in your skills section, don't list everything that you've ever done and that you've ever been any good at. Think about the skills that people want to find you for next, in the future. I'm sure people are putting, NFT and metaverse skills on their profile. People search LinkedIn. It's a search tool. People will be searching by skills, and you can have up to 50 skills on your profile. So if I was working with teams, I would be creating a set of keywords that relate to the business and encouraging people to put those in their skill set, because that will help those individuals get found through search. And then in turn, they'll find the content that you want them to see from the company page as well. So for me, the skills is not about having endorsements on there and having 99 people say you're great at, at this. I'm not sure you would get 99 people say that you're great at dyslexic thinking. Personally, I actually switched the endorsement settings off. I think it looks a bit untidy and the numbers, and I don't think it adds much value. I switched the ability to endorse me off my profile and make sure that I really focus on having 50 words that will help me get found when people are searching for someone like me on LinkedIn. So I put the dyslexic thinking in there to show that it's being added, but wanted to talk about how skills can help your profile as well. Also to highlight on a LinkedIn personal profile, and again, this is not a company page, but this is actually where the individual, and it does apply perhaps more to freelancers and contractors, but as an individual, you can add, you'll see this in your editing, providing services. So this could be, again, I click on the pencil and I put that I provide services around social media marketing, around marketing consultancy. People can search for that. And actually within that services section, you can start to get testimonials and reviews in there as well. So it's a bit of a hybrid, it's a personal profile. It is about me and my career, but actually I'm talking about services, because this is where you're using your LinkedIn profile in your day job, to kind of talk about the services that you offer and how you can help clients and partners and suppliers as well. So again, going back to Adrian and Saf, of thinking about that you're going to have to help the individuals within the companies that you're working for, you've got to get their profiles up to date. It really is so much more about their profiles, and you're using that content, the company page, as a content hub to get eyeballs on the profiles. There is no point in doing loads and loads of work on a company page if you haven't got the individuals kind of set up to be credible and showcase and look at who's in the organization that people will be working with. It is more of a challenge to do that and explain that to individuals, but you need to kind of take them on that journey. And do you know what, if you flatter them enough to go, I can't do it myself, we can't do it enough with the business page, we need your help, you have the network, and empower them to do it, and just go, but you know what, we're going to give you all the content, so we'll help you set up, but then we'll give you all the tools that you need. I've talked about this. I wanted to highlight, how a company page and a personal profile was interlinked. So we've been through that one. There is a feature, and actually this has almost changed my mind on the power of a company page, in that you can now create newsletters from a company page. Going back to creator mode on a personal profile, this ability to create a newsletter has been on personal profiles for a while. It's still rolling out. But they have recently added it as an option for a company page. A newsletter, to do it, you would click on write an article. So whether you do this from your company page or your individual page, click on write an article. And then if you've got that functionality at the top of the next page, you would have this create a newsletter option. Creating a newsletter visually is very much like creating a Word document. You can have an image at the top, you can embed an image, you can embed a video. The difference between a newsletter and a regular article is that you can invite people to subscribe to it, and then people will receive it in their email inbox. They would still see it if they followed you, were connected to you. It would come up, like a post or an article in the newsfeed, but people can subscribe to receive it. And in fact, if you were to click on create a newsletter, what comes up next is you need to give your newsletter a title. You need to commit to how often do you want to publish. Do you want to do a daily newsletter, a weekly newsletter, or a monthly? Give it a title. And then the minute you set one up, it will send out a notification to all of your page followers or your personal profile followers to say, Luan Wise has set up a new newsletter. Would you like to subscribe? And I mean, no doubt you've received lots of notifications like this recently. As soon as they rolled it out, everyone was creating a newsletter. I do think there is value in newsletters on LinkedIn and having people subscribed and being able to see them. I've created newsletters for individuals who are very active on LinkedIn, and almost like an end of the month newsletter roundup, in case you missed it, this is everything I talked about this month, and my book club next month, this is coming up. It can be quite powerful, but I think it takes some thinking about, and it's almost like that, oh, new shiny feature, I'm going to create a newsletter. Danger, we all do it. There is a downside in that you're creating a newsletter, but you're not getting data. So it's not like if you had an email list and people are subscribing to it and you've got that email data to use. Yes, you've got followers on LinkedIn, but the power and the data and the subscribers still all sit within LinkedIn. So I personally wouldn't choose a LinkedIn newsletter over having my own email list, which is a business asset and I own. But I could think about using a newsletter to for a particular type of content as a way to say, and this is just an example of what I share. If you want more, the next level, you need to sign up to my email list. I think the opportunity to do this from a company page is great. And I am working with a client on it. But the challenge is, because I've always told my clients that actually the power is in your personal profile. We don't put loads of effort into building followers on the page, and the page followers aren't necessarily connections or prospects. Actually, if we did a newsletter from a company page at the moment, it's not going to go out very far. So my client wants to do this as a monthly roundup. This is what's happening. These are the events we're going to go out to. It makes more sense to do it from the company than an individual. So what we are doing is actually not diving straight in. We're spending some time building the followers on the company page so that we have the audience. The way we're doing this is that individuals who are an admin of the company page are able to invite their connections to follow the company page. So you have a limit to how many you can do a month. It's about 100, which is another challenge. So actually, for the next 3 months, we are saying each month you are all going to be admins of the company page, and we want to invite you to invite your connections to follow the company page. Adrian and Saf, well, this could be the route that you go down, but you have to make them an admin and you have to tell them to do it. And you have to remind them on the first of every month that there's more credits to do it again. I do think long term that's quite powerful, in that the company then has the followers. So if an individual left, the company has still got those connections. So actually, this is a positive in terms of making a company page more useful and getting employees to kind of give their connections back to the business by saying, we want to do a company newsletter and this is how we're going to do it. So this has almost changed my mind on, company pages could be useful, but yeah, don't dive straight in and do a newsletter tomorrow if you've only got 100 or 150 followers on the page. It's got to be kind of planned. Are you trying to unmute?
Yeah, that's right. Trying to find the keyboard.
That's all right.
How many followers do you think is kind of needed to start doing a newsletter then for a company page?
I think LinkedIn probably would say, I know for LinkedIn Live, they say you need to have at least 150 followers,
right,
minimum. I guess it depends on the size of your organization. Me as an individual, I could be happy with 100 subscribers, or, if it was a large organization, you could say, do you know what? It needs to be at least 1,000.
Right.
I think it depends. What is also a challenge around newsletters is almost, if it becomes a monthly thing, if anyone joins at a certain time, will it still make sense to them? Whereas if you can kind of almost spend that time building your audience before you launch, you've got a good chunk of people at launch, rather than kind of, oh, I've just started following their company page, I'm not going to get the notification to subscribe, perhaps I'm not going to see it. So I would work on building the audience before launching and go from there, rather than going, oh, do you know what, we've got 100 followers, let's go.
Yeah. So how many people would you accept as admin? Because it's been a trust thing, because they can start going a bit crazy and or not.
I think the answer to that is to make sure that you have a social media policy within your business, and that you train people and you explain to them what you want them to do. I think there is also something that I've come across, is that the invitation number is actually across the administrators.
Right. Okay.
And that if people aren't accepting the invitation, then it almost kind of decreases. So I would almost start with a handful and roll it out. So perhaps look at who's in your organization that has the most connections or the most relevant and value connections, and go, we're going to start off with you because, flatter their ego, get them to do it, and then remove them as an admin once they're done, and add the next tranche in.
That's cool. Okay.
But social media policy around do's and don'ts and expectations and trust. But actually, what can they do if they were an admin? They could post on the company page, which you would see, and you could delete. Would they really do something that they shouldn't? I would hope not. And they can see some stats, but as I said, the stats are fairly skewed, and people don't tend to look at stats unless they're a marketer or want to know what's happening.
There's a fair few admin already, actually. I think so. A lot of
probably more be by accident.
Yeah, there's a lot of marketing people on there, and there's a couple of people from the sales team as well. So I think that's probably quite a good starting point for us to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
And it's something that I measure. So if I'm working with clients, I actually do, I will go and have a look at the end of every month and say, that our company page has grown by this month. And then you kind of tend to go and you go, Mark hasn't done anything this month, has he? You can tell who's doing things.
Okay, thank you.
Another change to highlight around company pages, and this is the one that I really like this, is that when you have the like, comment, share, send along the bottom of any post on LinkedIn, this is a new one, that now when you hit share, you can repost it. So when you hit share before, you had to write something at the top. So if you like something, it just would appear in someone's newsfeed as someone liked it. If they write a comment on the post, it appears underneath it. If they were sharing it, you had to kind of write something above it, or it looked a bit odd. Now you have, when you do click on share, you have repost or share with your thoughts. And repost, I think, looks great, because this is an example. This just says, Kelly Vickers reposted this. And it just looks like it's a piece of content that she's created. So it hasn't got that kind of gap above it or anything else. And when I'm doing training within organizations and they say, well, what would you like me to do? And the answer is anything, just do something to get it out there. Of course, I would love it if you could add some context to it with a comment, or, when you're sharing it. But just this idea of, everyone, if you could just repost it, it's going to get that message out in front of the audience. And I just think it looks a bit neater than having perhaps something above it or comments below it. Has anyone started to kind of see this in their feed?
Yeah, I've seen that. So that can be obviously shared, the repost, as a company.
Yes.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, from a company or as an individual. It works always. But I just think it looks neater than that kind of, sharing it but not putting anything above it or something. If I could get everyone in an organization to be reposting, that content is going to go out so much further. Sometimes there's a hesitancy of, well, you told me to add context to it, but I don't really know what to write. It's a blocker, whereas this repost button, I think, is a quicker way.
So it's almost like a retweet.
Yeah, without having to add a comment or a quote. Yeah.
I was going to just go back to the newsletter. So that's
Yeah.
something Karen was keen for me to set up. So I have set up the first newsletter. It hasn't actually gone out yet. Oh, sorry, I've on
That's okay.
video. We were going to use it for thought leadership pieces from the CEO.
Yeah.
So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, because we've got obviously email list and newsletter that goes out, and we share that on LinkedIn. So I suppose it's sort of, we haven't really done a strategy around what we're using it for, but thought leadership pieces and monthly is kind of where we've got to. So yeah, any thoughts on that?
I do have some thoughts, and this I think almost comes back to that personal profile versus company page profile balance. I think if it's something that's coming out from an individual, it should come from their personal profile.
Yeah.
So maybe it's, a post, and a post on LinkedIn can now be 3,000 characters. So you've got a fairly good amount of room on there. An article is a bit longer. I think it's from an individual. I'd like to see it from their profile first, but of course make sure their profile is all up to date and looking great. I think for me, what a company page newsletter is more of a business roundup, or business news. So I would perhaps maybe at the beginning of the week do it from the individual's profile, and then do your newsletter from the company page perhaps a couple of days later, top and tail it with some other business news, and then go, and here's the latest thought leadership piece from, and include it, and almost do a double strike with it. I've kind of done that before, of we'd have company news coming out with press release, and we've acquired this or won this or something, but if it's the individual's thoughts or ideas, I think it's better coming from them first. But yeah, if you can get kind of almost a double shot at it, that's the way to go. And of course, try and drive people to follow the individual and the company page backwards and forwards as well. Philip, are you using newsletters within Green Park? Do you think it could be something to do?
I don't think we are, but I think it is something we should be thinking about, because we're a sort of slightly different type of executive search firm, where we're trying to build community, particularly around underrepresented groups. So so I think there's more value. I don't like to see this sort of, we're hiring this person, we're hiring this role, or we just had that person, or but some real content around inclusion, I think, would be great.
Yeah, and I think again you could do that from the company page, and then everyone be sharing it, couldn't you?
Yeah, and I think actually, just to your point, because our CEO is very prolific and he has a lot of followers himself, so doing it from him and the company page, and then everybody following it, I think would be, reposting it would be good.
Yeah, so there's kind of, Adrian, this is probably a slightly different way to where you were going to come at it, from how do we use the company page and it all being all in on the company page. It's got to be about those personal profiles.
Definitely, it's kind of, I definitely get, as soon as you said about the business page being the content hub, so that is our responsibility. We put engaging content on there, and down to personal accounts to share the love, basically. So
what we also wanted to do was engage, like, on our feed, like you can do as yourself, but to do it as the company, but to obviously click on each post and change it to you. And
there's no feed as such, is there?
No, like,
page?
No. No. It's really hard, because particularly as an agency, I get it all the time. Years ago I was asked to go and do a whole afternoon's training on a company page, and I was a bit like, I can kind of do it in 10 minutes. The answer for it was like, what there's big expectations. It's almost, I think people go, oh, it can sit over here, it can be like a website, and actually there's just not enough power in it at the moment to get results from it. I mean, if you think about how you use LinkedIn, probably rarely go on a company page unless it's to find a contact, and use it like an address book, versus and that's just a replacement of how you would go on a team page on a website. Your engagement, your conversations, your connections, it's all with individuals and reminders.
What we found as well, any kind of content that we post on the business page that involves individuals, does so much better than anything that we kind of pull out from websites and for newsworthy. What we think is newsworthy isn't. Things that are personal do really well.
Which is your first point when we opened up about engagement. It's the personal stories, isn't it? You know, anyone running a marathon or you know, those kind of things. You know, I'm sure if Alison and Richard posted the baby picture on there, that would fly more than any amazing piece of content or webinar that they've done.
And it's not quicker to do. There was a piece of content of someone who arrived at an event yesterday on the Boris bike, or the day before, because of the strikes, and he just published a picture of him on the bike outside the venue. And best, we've only been doing it for 2 weeks, but it's the best post to date, and it's just like, that's easy in comparison to what we've been trying to achieve. You know?
There's also, so I knew we would digress, but my advice on that is also, it's not only that the personal posts are, you know, they're quicker to read and understand, but there's also thinking about how people engage with things. If it's a big piece of content like a white paper or, you know, a report or something, people kind of read it and go, but personal content people want to engage with, and it doesn't necessarily say anything about them. It doesn't say that they're endorsing a white paper or a report or something like that. And I'll share with you, still one of my most engaging piece of content was a selfie with an 80-year-old man.
No.
The 80-year-old man was a marketing professor, and I went to a talk, and you know, anyone that's ever studied marketing was like, Malcolm McDonald, is he still around? You know, he's the person we've all listened to. You know, Philippa, you just smiled. It's kind of like, you know, I went to his talk, went up to him afterwards and went, you know, can I have a selfie with the book? You know, it was an easy post, but it was, you know, what did it say about me? I go to talks, I stay up to date, you know, I go and talk to the professor. Anyone that's in my peer group that studied marketing go, wow. It's an easy like. Whereas if I'd said, here's my latest book review of Professor Malcolm McDonald and what he's done, people kind of go, yeah, you know, but, you know, it's almost that was a really easy piece of storytelling, said something about me, people could just like it, celebrate it, and it doesn't, it's not overwhelming. They're not getting themselves into a conversation that they might feel out of their depth with. You do need a balance, you know, you still do need the crunchy content, but yeah, anything that's, you know, I'm doing a cycle ride, or, you know, this kind of stuff, people want to know about you and as well. So yeah, go to talks and get selfies with the speaker is the advice. I've just got a couple more slides. Let's run through them. Something, I don't know if any of you are in these sectors, but if you are in B2B software, hardware, financial, insurance, education, healthcare, pharmaceutical, there's an additional option on your company page to list products. So I'm guessing this is, you know, software companies where they have lots of different product names, and financial services, you know, perhaps multiple sectors. You can create product pages within your company page, and individuals working for companies that have a product page can actually highlight that product in the experience section of their profile. So, you know, I may work for IBM, but, you know, they're such a large organization, I'm not sure if they fit in one of those, but I might want to say, do you know what, I work on this one, and highlight it. So I'm not sure that they apply to any of you here, but if you're managing company pages, that's something to be aware of. I'm just going to, one thing about the news feed, it's 4 o'clock, my bells are going. LinkedIn have recently talked about how they want to clean up the news feed and make sure that it's relevant to what you're doing. I said that I always click 3 dots and try and keep it as tidy as I can. LinkedIn are now providing what they say more options to signal what you aren't interested in. I think this is primarily in the States at the moment, but it will roll out. If you don't want to see political content in your feed, you would have the option to switch it off. They are also responding to what they're calling low quality content. So this is where you may have seen content around, you know, someone saying something and then going, use the like button to say yes, and the, you know, the heart to say no, and the support to say maybe. That's kind of seen as a little bit spammy, and people have said, you know, that's not quality content, that's just in it for the you know, the vote. So they're reducing that, and they will basically downgrade it and not show it from many people. They are very focused on keeping conversations safe. It doesn't tend to happen on LinkedIn as much as I think the other social media platforms, but if there are issues, if there's fake profiles or inappropriate messages or posts, block them, report them, and LinkedIn are addressing them. And LinkedIn has also kind of noticed that lots of people were using polls, and people have kind of gone, oh, not another poll on LinkedIn, and things like that. So I think they're also kind of adjusting how much they share polls. Talking about engagement on polls, I think I'm not seeing as many polls now, but I did a poll yesterday on literally, when did you last update your LinkedIn profile? Last 3 months, last 6 months, last year. And I'd had 99 votes within the first couple of hours. So again, that was like something that was relevant to what people expect me to be talking about. And they'll probably be expecting a follow-up post going, you should update it more often. But it was really easy for people to get engaged, to vote on and to comment on. So think about, that could be a way of creating more engagement as well, if it's relevant to what you're doing. The last update I wanted to share with you and see if you're using them is the LinkedIn events feature. So LinkedIn accelerated their launch of an events feature, effectively creating an event on LinkedIn and allowing you to kind of invite people to it, invite your connections to it, host events, have conversations about events. They accelerated it a couple of years ago. You can create and set up events for you as an individual. You can do it from a company page. There are now, they said, over 24,000 events are created on LinkedIn every week. And I personally think the events function is really easy to use. I use it a lot for webinars or roundtable events or LinkedIn live interviews. It's a nice, if you are doing any event, I would recommend setting it up on LinkedIn, using it as a way to kind of talk about what you're doing, inviting connections along to it. So I've just kind of put it in there as a screenshot as a reminder, but if anyone's interested, I could demo it. Is anyone using events, hosting events?
We're trying to encourage the client to use events.
Yeah, we wanted to do it the other day, but they weren't keen on it. But
they're saying because it was via an Eventbrite.
Yeah.
Right, and they didn't want to split the kind of traffic to go to one place or the other. But I think that's we wanted to use the event page to advertise the event as opposed to more to a booking mechanism.
Yeah. And actually, I would say the one downside of a LinkedIn event is that it's very hard. You can't use it to accept registrations. There is a way that if you do it from a company page, you can get people to fill in a lead gen form. But if you do it from an individual, because if you're a speaker or that's just the way that you set it up, you can't actually register for the event as such on LinkedIn. So I would use it. And, one of the first lines I put in the description is, note, this page is to promote the event. If you want to attend, you need to register at, and then put the Eventbrite link. So I would kind of argue and go, yeah, Eventbrite's great and people can search, but do you know what? This is a really quick way for me to invite all of my connections to an event, set up the event. And then when you're the ones that set up an event, or if anyone's invited you to an event and you accept it, you can then go through your connections and invite them. And it just sends a really neat invitation that you would see in your notifications tab. Luan Wise has invited you to attend this webinar. Then all the data of anyone that clicks accept goes onto the event page, and you can then message them and say, I saw you signed up for it, but you haven't actually registered on Eventbrite yet, and kind of have conversations about the event. So I would almost go back and go, it's not a replacement for Eventbrite, don't worry, but this is a really easy way that we can invite our connections through one click.
That's really good, because they were so worried about a lot of the events our client is a partner or promotes is a partner, or so they leave it up to company A to actually do all the advertising. But I still think if we're a partner or a proud partner, that should be okay. Cool. We've got a little bit of ammunition to say why now.
I just think it's a great way to promote the event, and the event will also send reminders of the event you said you were going to is coming up in a day, it's coming up in an hour. So I think LinkedIn are missing a trick by not accepting but I'm sure it's a GDPR issue around it. But I think that the biggest tip I'd say is, if you are doing the event on LinkedIn, make sure that the title is really obvious. When I get a notification that says someone has invited you to an event, but I have no idea what the title is or what it's about, you know what, you've got to make it so see, or, you know, this is a webinar about how to use LinkedIn better. You'd go, okay, that's exactly what I want, and click on it. Whereas when it's a kind of a pun or you don't really, you know, it's so obscure, you kind of go, oh, I have no idea what this even is. I'm going to ignore it. And I just find it a really easy way to keep in front of my network by, you know, we talked about at the beginning, you know, monthly updates. I just, you know, click and invite everyone to it, and it goes into their notifications tab. So it's a really kind of quick visibility way. You know, whether they register or not, I do a lot of events for visibility as much as, you know, the room that we end up in afterwards. So I would again add that to your arsenal, but you would have to invite your colleagues to attend the event and then go, right, now we want you all to invite your connections to it. So I would use those. It's 4:10. We've talked about quite a lot of different features. Is there any burning questions that anyone has, anything that they'd like me to jump on the platform and demo or have a look at? Philippa, have we kind of answered some of your questions around how you might, you were about kind of getting your colleagues on board with how to use it better for the business?
Yes, so personally and together, which has been covered really neatly, thank you. You were going to demo something, you wrote it down earlier on, I can't remember what it was.
Managing connections, yes. I did write it down, yes, I'll show you that in a second. Yeah, I'll have a look at that. Mim, anything that's kind of jumped out at you? Any burning questions or anything you'd like me to demo?
I think my main things were newsletters and events. Events they're not using yet, so that was really useful. Did you say you use events to highlight to people what you've been doing as well, or did you say you do run events?
I run events. I run events and I speak at events, so I kind of use it that way.
But it's just a good way through your LinkedIn to just get in front of people. Okay, yeah.
I'll show you an event in a second. Yeah. Adrian, Saffron, anything?
We've used up your time already.
Not at all. I learn as much as what questions you've got or kind of where your head's at, as well as kind of sharing what's in my head. So, okay, let me go back to my screen. Okay. Can you see my LinkedIn profile on your screens? No? Let me. Now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Philippa, how I manage my connections is I will go to my network. So I will say that I do 99% of LinkedIn on a desktop. I find it much easier to use. I've got more control. Yes, I may use it on my mobile app if I'm kind of scrolling through in some downtime, but I'm very much a desktop user of LinkedIn. So, but I use my network here. Here, someone has invited me to attend an event, and this is a scale up club leadership. What is it? But I can see that someone's invited me to an event. I've got some invitations in here. But I can go over here to manage my network and look at my connections. And here I can search by names, or I can search with filters. So I quite often will use the filters to kind of go, oh, you know, who do I live nearby that I want to find, and I can filter my network by connections, or I could be looking for the company that they're in at the moment. So I do a lot of work within my network. A tip that I think I shared last time. So this is my invitations. I've got 53 invitations outstanding at the moment. And I can either ignore or accept them here. These people haven't sent me messages. I'm not aware of who they are. haven't come across them before. If I click on see all, I can now see all those 53 invitations that I've had, whether it's for an event. Here, look, someone's invited me to subscribe to their newsletter. But what I can do here with individuals that have sent me connection requests, but I may not know them, is that I can now message them. And you should be able to do this on a free account. So I may message Sneha and say, hi Sneha, thank you for your invitation to connect. I don't think we've met. Forgive me if we have. What was it? You know, is there something that I can help you with right now? So I kind of will make sure that I manage my invitations if it's people that I know or I don't know. Before, you know, if I did know, I'd be like, you know, send her a message going, yeah, thanks for doing the connection request. It was great to meet you earlier. Let's stay in touch. I will try and send one-to-one messages to as many people as I can as they come through that invitations stage. If I go back to my home page, so down the left-hand side of my home page is where I can see events. Events are here. If I wanted to create an event now, I would just hit on the plus button. But let me show you, this is an event that I've got coming up in July. So I've created this as an event. I've added a header image. I've given it a title. I've added a bit of a description in there about what this event is about. I've highlighted myself and my colleague as we're the speakers. That's all in the setup. But what I can do now, so I've set this event up, is now I can invite people to get that notification. It goes through my connections, so I could put invite here. It brings everyone up, or I could again search by location. I could search by school. I could search by industry. And sometimes I will, it depends what the event is, but for example, this one is about academia. So actually what I do on this one is select the school. So my co-presenter is from the University of Warwick. So I may pick out University of Warwick, see what contacts I've got from there. Let me just demonstrate. Have I got contacts from Warwick? Yep, I've got a few that have either studied there or go there. So I may go, I really want to invite these 3 people along to this event to get a notification. I click the people I want to invite and then I click invite. So that's how to then kind of send that notification. And I think you can send about 800, which is really quite useful. I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to discard it because this event is still a month away. So for me, I tend to leave it to the last 2 weeks to do a webinar. But I can see that some people have already found this because you have to do a post when you set it up. So I can see that 10 people have already said they're going to go along to this event. And I can see who those people are. I can see whether I'm already connected to them because I'm a first, or if I'm not connected to them, they're a second level connection. And I may send Ria a note and say, hi, I see you signed up for my next event, would love to connect with you. So I can actually see everyone that's kind of responded to this. And if I go back to my homepage, by the time you do, you know, get to an event, let me have a look at a previous one. This was one for a client, but sometimes you can have quite big numbers around who's saying they're going, whether it's your connections, your first level connections, all the attendees, and you can message these people without being connected to them, without having emails or a paid for account. As long as you're in that event, you can start to see who these people are. So I might suggest that you accept competitors' events or industry events just to see what kind of people are in that network, because then, you know, they may be prospects, people that you could be speaking to. Have a look. I'll just highlight this one for you. This is what I was talking about. Here we put very clearly, note, this event is for information only. To attend the event, please register at. And when you're setting up the event, you can put the online link in up here as well. So I find the event feature actually really easy to use. Keep in touch with people. If you were to do LinkedIn Lives, if you have that opportunity, I'll pause it. We did this as a live, so actually after the event, the recording appears here. We can see comments from people that got involved, who attended, and lots of data around, did they actually show up? Did they get involved? You know, how many views have we got on this one, and the companies and the seniority of people as well. So if events are in any way, shape, part of your content or your activity, I would really recommend looking at that function. You could also just, respond to events if they're relevant to your industry and have a bit of a route around those people that have said they're going to attend, because that's a business development opportunity as well. Philippa, you could look out for diversity and inclusion events, say that you're going, and have a nice old route around and be visible almost in that conversation. It's a real opportunity in there. So I think we've covered quite a lot in that session. You will get the slides, you will get the recording. I'm sure if there's any burning questions, then please do send them through to Richard and Alison. You can contact me directly as well and forward those on. But if you have no more burning questions today, it's now 4:20, so we could wrap up.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so
brilliant.
much.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Take care.
Been brilliant. Thank you.
Bye-bye. See you soon. Bye.